You've figured out your character's intentions. You've found points of commonality with them and learned how they justify their actions. You've traced their thought process through monologues. Now it's time to look at how your character got to this point in their life. What does their story look like before it intersects with the story of the play? It's very rare for a play to cover the entire life of any one character, let alone every single character involved. Most of the stories you'll see on stage only cover a section of the characters' lives, and oftentimes it's a pretty small section. But each of the characters has a lifetime of experiences that they bring to the story, and those experiences shape how they interact, how they make choices, and how they respond to the situations they find themselves in. One of the most fun jobs an actor gets to do is to discover those moments that have shaped your character prior to the start of the play. When you're filling in the gaps of your character's history, it's most helpful to start with the part of your character's story that we do see in the play. In our Stepping into the Story video, I talked about creating a character bio, a basic list of personal information about your character. When you're thinking through your character's history and how that informs their role in the play, start with that basic list of what you know about them. What are some of their strongest intentions, and what obstacles stand in their way? What position do they hold in society? What other characters do they interact with, and what do those relationships look like? From there, you can work backwards to discover what events in your character's past might have influenced their present circumstances. If your character has just arrived in a new place, what made them leave home? If they have a strained or antagonistic relationship with another character, what happened to make them dislike or distrust that person? If one of their big obstacles is self-doubt, did they grow up in a family that was always criticizing them? Or did they have a more recent experience that has shaken their self-confidence? The first place to look for the answers to these questions is in the script. Sometimes the playwright will tell you a lot about your character's past, other times not so much. But whether you're given a lot of information or a little, make sure that your creative choices about your character make sense within the larger story of the play. For example, if your character's best friend makes a reference to something that happened when they were 7, it probably doesn't make sense to decide they became friends when they were roommates in college. If you're in a play that's based on a true story or a historical event, you may be able to find more information about your character's past. Even if there's not much written about your character specifically, reading about what life was like for the average person in the place and time period of the play can provide you with details you might want to borrow for your character. Oftentimes you'll have to rely on your imagination to fill in the specifics of your character's backstory. This can be really fun, but it can also feel a little overwhelming to try and make up an entire life story. Or, if you're someone who really enjoys using your imagination, it can be tempting to get caught up in all these little details that don't actually have that much to do with your character's role in the play. Remember to focus on the parts of your character's past that have a direct influence on the part of their story we do get to see on stage. One helpful approach is to create a bulleted list of several key moments from your character's past that shape their role in the play. Most of the work of building a character's history is work you can do on your own. But if your character has a close relationship with one or more characters in the play, it can also be helpful to do some of this work with the actors who play those roles and discover your shared history together. People tend to interact differently with their family, their romantic partner, or their best friend than they would with a coworker or someone they've never met before. In real life, we fall into different patterns of behavior around the people with whom we share history without even realizing it. But on stage, it can be a real challenge. How do you act like someone is your spouse, your best friend, your sibling, or your child if you've never met this person before? One exercise that I've found really helpful is to improvise short scenes between characters who share a close relationship that take place before the start of the play. This way, instead of having to rely solely on their imaginations, the actors have real memories of real interactions with the people they're supposed to be close to on stage, which can inform their interactions during the play. For example, if actors are playing siblings or best friends who have known each other since childhood, it might be helpful to have them pretend to be little kids and play a game together so that they can build childhood memories that give them a sense of a real shared history. In the original production of Still Small Theater's The Diary of Perpetua, I played Perpetua, who has a number of important scenes with her brother and her mother. I had never worked with the actors who played either of these roles, so in order to get us used to thinking of each other as a family, the director had us do a lot of improv exercises. I remember one rehearsal where the actor who played my brother and I were told to pretend that we were 9 and 5 years old, and the director just let us play together for a good 15 to 20 minutes. At another rehearsal, the director had the actor who played our mother walk us through our childhood bedtime routine. Even though I didn't know either of these actors before doing the show, by the end of those rehearsals, when we were on stage together, we really did feel like a family. And having those memories of happy childhood times and caring for one another added so much depth to the really hard things that we went through as a family during the play. Let's take a look at how improvising a scene from your character's past can help inform the present action of the play. In the last video, Jasmine led us through a monologue from All Heaven Broke Loose, given by Miriam, the mother of Yeshua, where she is reflecting on her relationship with her son. Miriam and Yeshua don't actually have a lot of direct interaction in the play, but their shared history plays a huge role both in the scenes where they are on stage together and in Miriam's scenes following Yeshua's death. Julia and Eli are going to be playing the roles of Miriam and Yeshua for this scene. These two actors have never been in a show together, so in order for them to play mother and son believably on stage, they're really going to have to think about their characters' shared history together. We're going to take a look back in time at an incident in Jesus' life that is not part of All Heaven Broke Loose, but is recorded in the Gospel of Luke and takes place many years before the start of the play. This story is found in Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 50. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up to the festival according to the custom. After the festival was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. Then they began looking for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." "Why were you searching for me?" he asked. "Didn't you know that I had to be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he was saying to them. First, let's hear from Julia and Eli what they think their characters' intentions are in this scene. Then, based on those intentions, they're going to improvise a brief conversation that would take place right after Miriam finds Yeshua in the temple. So, Julia, I'd like to start with you, if I may. What are Miriam's intentions going into this scene?
In the beginning, when she first sees him, I think it's to make sure that he's physically safe. Like, I think it's like, what are you talking? Like, I think to really make sure there's no emergency. And then the second part, intentions of like, I really want to understand what he's talking about, and I want to uncover more of this mystery that is my son, and I consider this to be a really significant incident, but I really don't know why. So maybe my son can actually help me figure that out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Eli, now this is kind of like complicated in assigning intentions to Jesus, but you found him as a character, and at this age, what do you think his intentions are?
I think at the beginning, when Miriam finds him in the temple, I think his intentions are to share God with her, to share what he has been learning and what he's been doing for 4 days at this point. And to sort of let her know, I'm here learning about my father. I'm in my father's house. From there, I think once they get to where they're staying, once Miriam has collected Jesus, Yeshua, I think his intention is that of every 12-year-old boy. They want to know, or he wants to know, how he can make it right. He wants to know how he can make it better. And usually that happens with a 12-year-old by trying to explain what they were doing or what they were thinking. And surely if my mother understands exactly what I was doing, she'll feel better too.
Son, where have you been? Why have you treated us this way? You left us. We were looking for you for 3 days. Are you okay? What's wrong? What happened?
Did you not know I needed to be in my father's house?
You left us. What are you talking about? Your father's house? We traveled for days. We looked around and we couldn't find you. What happened? Did somebody take you? Are you okay?
No,
What
Mother.
did those men say to you in there? What did they want with you?
I was learning. I asked questions.
We looked for you for 3 days.
I never left the temple.
But how did you get back there? Did some man take you? Did who took you?
You know, in the morning I came to the temple, and at night you were gone, so I came back to the temple and I haven't left.
You've been in the temple, in the Jerusalem temple for 3 days.
Yes. It's been wonderful. They've been teaching me. They've been teaching me everything about my father, about the scriptures, about about me.
When you say about your father, who are you? Are you talking about Joseph?
My Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven.
Oh, Yeshua. I don't know what to say. I'm tired, son.
I'm sorry, Mother. I've been learning. I did not know where you were.
You were there the whole 3 days. You didn't. You just didn't leave.
No.
Who did you stay with?
Oh, I stayed in the temple. I slept in the courts.
Oh my goodness.
It was wonderful. We could see all the people, and during the day I would hear them teach, and I would ask questions, and they answered me. They answered me so much more than some of the other people.
You mean it hasn't been, when you've been to temple with us, it hasn't been the same?
Well, there are more people to ask questions here than in Nazareth. And they read the scriptures so much more. And
Yes.
and they speak with so many other people and tell you about those people and what they've learned and how they've met my father, how they've talked with my father in heaven.
They, how can they, well, I, I guess I've experienced that a little bit.
Like
But
the story you told me, Mother, when you heard from the angel,
yeah.
when my father sent him to you.
So other people are talking about their times with angels too, and talking with God.
Not as many angels, but hearing the scriptures
Wow.
and knowing how they're being led and learning and loving each other, and it's also wonderful.
So when I saw you, it looked like you were teaching them. It looked like you were standing up there and saying things, and they were listening, and some of them were frowning, and
They frown a lot sometimes, some of them.
we need to leave this place. These people are coming out. I don't. I want you now. I want you to come home with us.
Okay. It will be nice to go back home.
Will you tell us the next time you want to stay somewhere?
Yes, Mother. I'm sorry. I thought we were going to the temple again as we had done for the rest of the festival.
Okay, well, Passover is over for the year, so we're going back now. Okay?
Sounds good.
Now let's look at how this scene could inform the actor's work on the rest of the play. For Miriam, Julia now has real memories connected to the actor playing her son, which could help fuel her monologue in Act 2 when she's grieving his death. For Yeshua, Eli now has real memories of the actor playing his mother showing care and concern for him, which might come into play during the crucifixion scene as he tells his disciple Yochanan to take care of her. You won't always be able to improvise character backstory with your fellow actors. Some directors like to use improv as a rehearsal tool, others don't. Especially if you have a short rehearsal process, the director will want to spend most of the time working on action that occurs within the play, and you'll need to do most of your personal character and backstory work on your own. Here are some other ways that you can create that sense of relationship with your fellow actors. Earlier, I talked about writing out the key moments of your character's backstory in list form. Look at the moments in that backstory that involve other characters in the play. Even if you can't improvise these moments with your fellow actors, you can still play them out in your imagination. As you think through each scene, try to picture your fellow actors in their roles and imagine how they would behave in that scenario. Another helpful tool is to develop a ritual with the actors you interact with the most closely on stage. When I say ritual, I'm not talking about a religious ceremony. Many actors have little things they do before they go on stage that help them get into character or feel ready to perform, and this is known as a pre-show ritual. When your character has a close relationship with another character, creating a short ritual with the actor who plays that character can help both of you feel connected before you go on stage, and help create that sense of a close relationship really quickly. When I was in the Glass Menagerie, the actor who played my brother and I discovered that we knew some tongue twisters that nobody else in the cast knew, and so we would warm up before every show by saying them together in the dressing room. While we didn't have time in rehearsals to play out any childhood scenes, chanting these silly rhymes together became almost like a childhood memory or an inside joke between siblings. It was something we shared that the rest of the cast wasn't in on, and we would each go on stage feeling this sense of connection that belonged only to us. People who share close relationships form rituals all the time. Inside jokes, nicknames, secret handshakes, silly dances. Usually they happen without us even thinking about it. Most of the rituals I've developed with castmates weren't something we sat down and planned out. They developed naturally as we got to know one another throughout the rehearsal process. Because theater is inherently imaginative work, it tends to create an environment where people are more ready to show the playful or silly sides of ourselves that we don't usually show in real life. And that's usually where rituals come from. Developing a ritual with one or more of your castmates can help create a sense of connection and camaraderie really quickly. And if it's something you do right before you go on stage, it can help signal your brain that now is the time to step into your character's world and their relationships, which can help you keep your character's feelings separate from your own personal feelings toward your fellow actors. So just to quickly recap, getting to know your character's history before the play starts will tell you a lot about the choices they make during the play. The script is your primary source for information, but don't be afraid to draw from your imagination or other sources if they're available. Just make sure that whatever choices you make about your character's past ultimately serve the larger story of the play. Build memories for your character that involve your fellow actors in their roles. And when you're short on time, developing rituals with your castmates can help you feel immediately connected. Thanks for watching, and have fun discovering how your character's history influences the story we see on stage.